Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Interestingly, we have another doctor here with us, even though he's not a medical doctor, but like the way my producer put it behind the scene, he's a receiver of the healthcare services in Nigeria, and is someone who has been in the scene, so he understands what is also playing out in the health sector. We have our very own Dr. Idahosa Osamhanze. This your outfit. It's Friday. Anyway.
Yes. I need to ask, have you received a title recently?
Well, I am waiting for one.
Your cap says so.
I am waiting for one.
Good morning.
Good morning, Blessing, Femi. Good morning.
Glad to have you join us in this glamorous style. Great.
Wet day in Lagos.
Yeah, it's typical of Lagos. Now, let's look at the health sector. Earlier we started a conversation about the development in the health sector. Like we rightly put it, as the receiver of health services in Nigeria, how will you assess healthcare service in Nigeria? Let's even zero it down to the last 1 year.
Well, I think for me, it's getting better. It's getting better. Why a lot of people are thinking of moving out, it's also heartwarming to know that a lot of people are even moving in. That for me, it's a good sign that some things are happening. We just saw Emeka, though a British citizen, but a Nigerian British citizen, but he will prefer to come work here in Nigeria than remain in the UK, practicing medicine, even when his families are there. I also saw a little video the other day of this guy who is one of the top university and physician in the US, who said July 1, he want to come to Nigeria and have Nigerians enjoy bone medicine. That he has given it to them in America. Now is the turn of Nigeria. Recently, I also had somebody, of course, doing the private sector, who also came all the way from UK and setting up here, doing a whole lot of amazing things. And I think to a very large extent for me, so much is happening, although we cannot say Suhuru yet, because a lot of things are still very lacking. And I think one is your area where we really need to even work. It's not even in terms of the provision of equipment for me, facility or infrastructure. It's much more than that. Some of our health workers need to be properly trained and reoriented to understand emotional intelligence, psychology of patients, and how we deal with people who are having issues, because such seems to be very lacking in most of public institutions where people don't treat patients with empathy. And I think those are, for me, where, of course, we need a really lot of investment in terms of soft skill for those who are practicing. And then, of course, you are coming to a hospital, you are not afraid to see a nurse or see a doctor because of the, I call it bullying in quotes.
Why do you think bullying exists? Is it as a result of the health workers themselves being overwhelmed?
I don't think it's about being overwhelmed. It's just the fact that we must also try to incorporate. It's not just enough, and I think that's one of the problems. I don't think it's just the health sector alone. It's almost in all disciplines, where people go to school and they don't have a passion for what they do, and they really don't, feel this kind of a love for the profession. I think that is more it. That the fact that somebody has an A in biology and physics does not necessarily suggest that he must be a medical doctor. And I think that's where, of course, in terms of career path development, we have missed it a great deal. That say you go to school, so as long as somebody is good in science, you just feel that this person must be a medical doctor. And if he's passing only art, and then, of course, he must be in the art. So I don't think we should be able to do discipline like that. You see, because there's a general ethic for medicine, and that's global, which is, of course, is the survival of the patient first, over and above any other thing. And this is hugely psychological for the patients. So you have situations where you are approaching a health facility and you're afraid. I see that from time to time, and I think if you go to most of the public facility, a patient who is on emergency, if you have what's it called, a parent rolling up and down, trying to pay one payment here, trying to do one thing here, trying to do one test here, and of course, all this you are on your own. And sometimes, of course, admission has not even been given to the patient. He's still waiting there. So these are issues that we also need to deal with, apart from the fact that there are a lot of infrastructural deficit, because most of the public hospitals, which of course the common man can afford, you see there are always no spaces. People want to be admitted, there are no bed space and the rest of it. So those expansions also will need to happen so that Nigeria can actually benefit from quality health care. But talking about being overwhelmed, and I think there's a doctor in Uganda who spoke to this issue some 2 years ago, and he said, look, the problem in Africa is people must have to be also taught to live well. And living well is actually not too expensive. It's just the fact that people may not know what to do. And therefore, we get down with very terrible ailments that are owing and flowing from the lifestyle. I think it's also very important that we teach our people good lifestyle, and this is fundamental for me. I remember some 6 or 7 years ago when, of course, in the UAE they discovered that children were overeating, and they knew that this was going to be a big problem in the future, having to spend more money doing diabetes. So what they did was to go to the elementary school to teach them dietary. So they know how to eat, what to eat, in what quantity to eat it. And then, of course, when to exercise and the rest of it, when to rest. Once all these things are put in place, people fall less sick. And then, of course, the hospitals are not overburdened.
All right, let's still look at this issue of brain drain syndrome, or the JAPA thing, which also has affected the health sector. I know we've talked about it earlier, but I want us to look at it in this direction as regards the approach to tackling this issue in the last 1 year by President Tinubu's administration. You know, the minister said, was quoted to have said that Nigeria is losing its health professionals to countries that did not invest in their education. And you're aware of attempt, a bill was sponsored, a few months ago to ensure that health workers in Nigeria spend some time in Nigeria before traveling abroad. So what do you make of the approach to tackling this brain drain and the issue of JAPA syndrome in the last 1 year?
You see, it's... for me, treating symptom rather than deal with root cause. We were having a conversation some time ago, and a friend of mine from Kigali said, look, you guys are blessed, over 200 million people. Just imagine that all you do every year is train 1 million engineers, 1 million medical doctors, and ship them abroad. And imagine the volume of foreign exchange that you will be receiving. And they are seeing it from human capital development angle. That if we train all the doctors, they cannot take care of all of us. So some of them also need to go out. And India has done this extremely very well. And that's why there is no big company you talk about today who does not have India at the top. And they are still carrying Indian card, and they are paying their tax back to India. People don't talk about JAPA in those environments. I think one problem we also have is a lot of fact that when we watch some scene in CNN and all these big media, sometimes we are tempted to believe that grass is greener someplace than where we are. So these are other issues that we must also have to deal with. For me, it's like a bandwagon effect. For some people that you see, because some people are moving out to what is invoked today, everybody must move out. Those are for me what it is. And I don't think that there are really issues that have to do with maybe the state of institutions that is really responsible. I think this is just a psychological thing that people have to go through. But that said, it's for me, what do? We have how many? Over 16 federal medical institutions in Nigeria who produce doctors every year. That's excluding the state institutions. That's excluding the private universities who are also training doctors on a regular basis. You see, Japa will only affect people that are still very young, in their 40s and in their early 50s. So the older doctors should be there to mentor the younger ones who are coming out of school system. And then, of course, a lot of them finding placement. I've seen people who come to me and say, look, I need a job. I'm a medical doctor, and they don't have.
But if you look at the ratio of doctor to patient in Nigeria, it's still something to worry about.
Yeah, but this is a problem because the investment in primary healthcare, the investment in secondary healthcare is too very weak. Imagine that every local government has a health center in their wards. So there'll be no pressure on some of all these issues. So for me, really, the pressure of e-health is more lifestyle. Because people we have not been taught to eat well. We've not been taught how to exercise, how to rest. So all these issues are the cumulative problem we have, that you see that people are just unnecessarily sick. And don't also forget the part of the psychology of it. I think it was just last Sunday here. I was teaching in our church. They said the kingdom principle for health. And I was telling them that, you see, every human being, the way God designed us, it's not really principally that he wanted us sick. I read a book by Henry Wright. He calls it The More Excellent Way. And he said that there are a few things that we need to do. Just being happy with yourself alone, and you are secreting plenty of dopamine in your system, refreshes you and keep you healthy. Just happy alone. Whereas anxiety, stress, anger, fear secretes enough cortisol in your body, which medically speaking is known to be responsible for over 80% of terminal diseases. So, how do I balance this? A lot of people are under stress. Some of them are self-imposed. You have 5 children. Your salary is 300,000, and you decide to place them in a private school. So you have to look for money to pay school fees. You are living in 2 rooms. They increase your salary by 50%. You go and rent a duplex. So just we want to impress some people. So this puts strain and stress on us, which actually are responsible for the kind of health situations that we find ourselves. Now, the people that we want to look like, they really don't care how they look. They don't care who is looking at you. A man is going to office, he just put on a small polo and go there. What is important is the work that is going to be done, not the way it is dressed. So this is the issue that we try compensating for felt inadequacies, I'll call it, that a lot of people are putting stress on themselves, which of course generate some of these health situations that we are talking about. This is what I'm talking about, doctor to patient ratio. Because if you have people who live healthily and they are living lifestyle, so people are talking about genetic issues, so there'll be just few. But I think this can be corrected with public education, public health education, so that people can actually go from place to place to tell people what lifestyle will give them good health.
The quality of lifestyle that people live, is it not proportionate to the income that is available to them? And let me also take your attention to the issue of health insurance. Now, many Nigerians still pay out of pocket for health services. What do you think primarily is a challenge with having more people come on board health insurance scheme in Nigeria?
Okay, I'll talk about the health insurance, but let me first of all start from the first point, which is income and its relationship with lifestyle. You know that this popular saying is, if you want to live long, you eat like a poor man.
Really?
Oh, yes. Yeah. If you want to live real long, You eat like a poor man. So you don't have plenty of oil in your food. You don't eat meat at all. So all you are eating is vegetable. They are fresh from this. This is what it is. So you want to live long, you eat like a poor man. So many poor people are struggling to eat like rich people. And they are putting a lot of junk into their system. What I'm saying is that the things that makes you healthy, they are not far-fetched, especially in an environment, a temperate region like ours, where even by your backyard, in short, my wife came yesterday and was telling me leaves are too expensive. And I said, I've told you, put sack around this house and let vegetable be here. We don't need to go and buy it. We can pluck it from where we are. And these are things that are not too expensive and things we can actually make for ourselves. So what you see us do is the fact that we have left where we were in the 1960s, 1970s, where, of course, you find a lot of people who were actually producing what they eat and they were living more healthy than the people that we are having now. So I think for me, lifestyle issues are not issues that are costing so much of money. It's the fact that people will need to manage and understand that this is good for my health and I need to do it. How much does it cost for you to do an exercise, a walk around, maybe from one place to another? It doesn't cost any money, does it? Or to ride a bicycle. So keep you fit and healthy. It doesn't cost any money. So all these things that we're talking about that will give you quality health does not cost money. So it's not about health lifestyle that is expensive. It is the people knowing what to do because they have not been trained or they have not been schooled to do what will give them good health. But this other one is more fatalistic, that people believe that, you see, we live in a very religious environment and people don't even agree that sickness can come to anybody, and therefore we find a way to rationalize it and say, well, over my dead body. So if you go and sign up for insurance for health, it means that you are inviting health. Is it not in this part of this world that today when people go to the altar to go and marry, they used to say for better, for worse? In the church today, what are you hearing? It's for better, for best. Because people say when they put worse, it's like you are putting a curse on yourself. So this kind of religious orientation, I feel, is what is affecting the health sector, that a lot of health insurance, it's not just health insurance, all forms of insurance is not working here. People don't put insurance on their car because they say, why will I put accident insurance? Am I praying for accident? You say, fire, am I praying for fire to burn my house? So this religiosity in the environment is also a very fundamental reason why a lot of people will not subscribe to insurance.
Virtually all stakeholders, they've come to the term that it is needful for Nigeria to have state police or to practice what we call state policing. But why do you think, what are the fears? Let me put it that way. What are the concerns? And why do you think it's been very challenging to put it into practice? Unlike in the US, where state police, virtually every state control has its own police. But in Nigeria, there are fears and concerns. The subject has been there, but we're just moving back and forth. What's actually wrong?
Well, it's, for me, the inability to do critical root cause analysis of your problem. That's actually the bane of all the troubles that we have as a country. It's easy for us to just look at America and say, oh, Americans have state police, they have mayor police and all that. But they're not looking at the constitutional composition of the American society. The federal arrangement in America and the federal arrangement in Nigeria are not the same. The level of political development in America and Nigeria, they are not the same. The understanding of the tenets of democracy in America and Nigeria, they are not the same. The value orientation in America and Nigeria are not the same. So to import wholesale what you see in America and put it in our environment is nothing but an invitation to anarchy, in my own rating. The question to ask is, Why is the Nigerian police, for example, not functional? Or the security agencies in Nigeria, even including the DSS, are not at the top of their game? That's a question to ask. We have enacted a whistleblowing act in Nigeria, for example, for more than 10 years now. Nobody blows any whistle. Except that you want to make a DSS officer, or for example, a police officer, give him some witchcraft to be able to detect what is in people's heart. That is the only way you can gather information in this environment.
So what has happened to the whistle?
Yeah, so because people are not open.
If they're not open, could there be reasons why?
Yeah, there's a
they're
whole
not
lot of
open?
reasons, because these are also things that have to do with past experiences. You find situations where a lot of people felt that something had gone wrong, and you want to go and report to the police, and you become the victim. So, in that environment, if I have information, but I know it's not right, I don't want to voluntarily go and pass it to the police because I don't want to answer too many questions. So where the complainant eventually becomes the accused. There are many instances and cases like that, that the experience of the average individual in Nigeria on the street in dealing with security forces. So it's safer for people to just see and walk by than to go to police, and then they are going to ask you all the questions in the whole world, even the one, and they are asking you to provide evidence, but you're actually supposed to be giving them a lead to maybe a crime scene or an incident that has or is about to happen. But if that happened in the West, I say, oh, I see somebody is moving around in this place, I don't know who he is. The police come and say, they come and do their own investigation and establish whether that is harmful or not. But here it's not. You have to go there physically to be there. Sometimes you have to spend money because you say, oh, petrol is not in the vehicle. Somebody has to fuel it and all these things. These are things that we see on a daily basis on the streets of the country. So all these issues are why a number of people are not willing to volunteer information to security agencies, which will help in combating crime rate time. So in the longer run, like they say, security is everybody's business. We're all involved in it. And this is the way we were all raised and grown. But talking about the issue of state police, there's a Bubeagu in the southeast.
Yes.
In the southwest, you have Amoteku. And all across the place, if you go to Edo State, you have the Edo State Vigilante Corps. The question is, how are these ones different from the state police or even the federal police force? Because they are all still about same curbing crime in society. But there's an aspect that many of us do not pay attention to, which for me is a real personal worry. Which is this worry? That our school system, for instance, because of lack of deliberate policy to govern the tertiary institution, it became a breeding ground for all manner of cultic groups who, even as students, were already handling arms and ammunition. This is a no fact to everybody. We all know how the school, people blend, as they call it. And if you imagine that in the last 40 to 50 years, we have been producing these characters into our system. Many of them now who have become inspector generals, many of them have become commissioner of police, many of them have become brigade commanders, many of them have become so many things in so many quarters. unknown to the society. And they still have that love and affiliations to their groups. We see them and their colors in town. And many of their colleagues and affiliates who are within the force system, they are out there with them. How do you arrest them and then, of course, they don't get information? You can't even plan to arrest them in the first place. So when you have a situation that lack of value has created a whole lot of dangerous things that are happening, you find that there are complicit. And this is why you see sometimes you are wondering how police going to enter into the hands of people who are kidnappers, people who are armed robbers. Because some of all these things, and those who have had experience, they tell you that these are not just people who are, some of them, they said they had master's degree from universities in Nigeria. And they tell you that, in quote, it's because of lack of job that they got into the trade. Police have all this information. Who is doing a study of the colors of these people? What effort is being made to stamp out these violent behaviors in our school system? Because it's not just waking up one day and saying you want to curb insecurity. No. Insecurity in Nigeria today is an industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And this is what those who are in the law enforcement should first appreciate. And then we now begin to think and articulate what is the best way to deal with this security issue. What's wrong with state police? Look at how government officials use even the federal structure to oppress their opponents for struggle for power. Now you have given this person the authority to own a police force that is at his beck and call. This is a worry and the fear of so many people, that it will be abused. Because like you say, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this is a worry, this is a fear of many Nigerians. And looking at it, that these people who are already terrorizing and oppressing the electorates, how do you now hand over the entire instrument or architecture of security and say they are the one to determine it? This is worrisome. One of the things that we are also not paying attention to, that in 1999, because a lot of people were very apprehensive after the cancellation of the Bush 1993 election, a lot of people, credible people, really didn't get into some of these things. It's also look at the character of those who are our governors today, whether past or present. Who were they? Their roots can be traced to their universities where they graduated from. So you know who is empowering who to do what. So this is the complexity in our security situation in the country. And until we get to that route where we have to reinvent our values and some certain characters, we don't need to dignify them. Where parents now start to ask questions, where children who are students are millionaires, and we're asking, where is this million coming from? Somebody was telling me that there's one quarter there, they have Yahoo Mothers Association. Yeah, but it sounds funny. But the women they are meeting, which means, of course, they know that their children are bad eggs in society. But they're doing everything to protect them. And it's even worse off, where money determines every value in our environment, that they are giving money to traditional heads and they are even earning traditional titles. So these are the issues that are befalling us as a country, where we have degenerated to a place of no value. And this is across board. It's across board.
All right, still on the issue of state policing. Now, the previous guest talked about ungoverned spaces, places where you don't even find the presence of security forces. But in almost every region, like you have said, there is one security arrangement or the other, whether it's locally done, is backed up by the state's government, or not, but there is some form of security. What happens in those so-called ungoverned spaces? Does it need a stamp of government approval or sort for the people in that environment to be aware and for their presence to be felt? Like in some areas where terrorists and even bandits tax farmers. What happens in those areas?
You see, it's described as ungoverned space, and for me, it's just unfortunate. I don't agree with Amakri that there are ungoverned spaces in Nigeria.
Oh, really?
I don't agree. It's that the government has ceded some places to some people to govern.
Why do you feel so?
You are in Lagos, take it, for example. See all the activities that is happening in CMS bus stop at your back here. And check it around everywhere. Where does these people get power from? Is this place ungoverned? This is in front of the force headquarters here. Look at it in here. Look at Obalende here. Is that place ungoverned spots? So what you're saying is that, look at it, the last time we saw in Zamfara, the head of the bandit was given a traditional title, and in the video, police were present. What is the meaning of ungoverned spaces?
But you have a porous, kind of border system. And then, if you've been to the north.
There is no porous border anywhere in Nigeria.
If you've been to the north, you see this landmass where a lot of, you can travel for kilometers.
Leave the landmass.
Where you see.
People are in charge in that area. Just take a moment to say you want to come with something from Cotonou, enter through any part of Nigeria, whether it is from the north or from the south, whether you will not see somebody who is waiting for you. Who says that there are government spaces? There are none.
When
the pollution is what is the problem. If you go to Idiroko here, all the routes, I'm not talking about tar roads, all the routes, arteries that is coming into Nigeria, there are people managed there. Now they are collecting something from people that are entering. Nobody should be talking about issues of government spaces. The problem we have is value system. That the people that you have put in place, who are supposed to be the enforcers of laws, have compromised. And they allow free access of these things. And so government may not necessarily be involved. But you see, there are some people who are within the system because the profiling of people here is poor. That's why I agree with Dennis earlier on, who says the first and the starting point for national transformation for Nigeria is identification. So that we know people by their ID and we can trace them to their root. So this is a real issue. So if you are looking at, people say, oh, we have borders. There is no porous border in Nigeria.
Really?
And there is nowhere anything comes into Nigeria that there is nobody there. The one you hear is that if they don't settle very well. So we understand this settlement and acceptance culture of corruption, which is almost in all places. And this is what is the bane of our development. So what do we need to do? We need an NOA who is fully active and operational to champion a crusade for a national reorientation so that people can first take their country as number one. This is the issue. Because some of the narratives that we have in the public space, they are all skewed. And it's always to the interest of who want to get what. This is what you see. So if you see, for example, today, look at all the arguments about the performance of government in the last 1 year. You see a lot of hypocrisy in those conversations because people just want to win cheap popularity for the sake of the next election. That's what you are hearing. Because nobody is addressing the real issues. when we start to address issues and we begin to develop values like every other persons in the world who put their state first, like Lincoln said, you are not thinking about what America is going to do for you. You are thinking of what you can do for the state. Once all of us get that orientation right, all these issues that we are talking about, they will no longer be there.
All right. Talking about the orientation of the citizens, earlier you talked about ungoverned spaces. You must understand that when you're talking about government, you're talking about police presence. Here in a country where you have a little bit over 400,000 policemen to a population of about 200 million people, and almost half of these policemen are attached to VIP. So when you talk about the police presence that which you're talking about, you said some people are in those locations. But the truth is these people are not primarily empowered to provide security, or they don't have the integrity or the expertise. Now, let's talk about what should be the role of citizens to complementing the efforts of the security agencies in tackling the issue of insecurity.
Yeah, I think that's actually where the missing link was. I grew up as a young man in the village, and I saw that in my community those days, we have vigilante that was strictly community-based and focused. There were no form of remuneration, no form of settlement. These people give up one day in a week to watch over their community, and they were formed in groups. Maximum what you see those days is that when maybe one of them is coming, we bring a keg of palm wine, and they will all be sitting down there drinking. So whatever is happening in the community, they are able to see and understand what is happening. So all those things were happening at that point until we get to the point where we degenerate. And those things are no longer working because the state seems to have empowered some certain people to oppress this culture of public security. I remember in those days in the 70s in my own village, because when the elder sees that this boy is misbehaving, they will know that this person is tending toward evil, so they want to curtail it. And then one man came and arrested every elder in the community because the son was involved. Use the state security. This happened to me in where I live, somewhere in Lagos here. A security who was in our clothes was seen entering into the clothes when he has been dismissed in the night, and he was arrested. They took him to police. He mentioned one big man named in Lagos here. My landlord and the neighbor who took him to the police station, they detained them. So when you find these issues, people don't have motivation to contribute. So they are disincentive from the official quarters. May not be directly government involved, but you're having some personnel, some bad eggs within the system who condone some of these practices. So people are trying to be on their own. So you can't do anything. So the people who use den gun to protect themselves now, they don't even have money to go and license it in the first place. They are not using it for rubber. They are using it for, what is it called, hunting in the village. And that's what they use to protect their village. And today you say, okay, those guns are not registered, you have to arrest them. So these are the issue. If we really want this to happen, all we need to do is to reactivate those communal efforts so that communities are empowered to watch over their city and government give them backing to do so. So there should be hotlines to DPO, hotlines to state commissioner, hotlines to IG of police. So that if something is happening at a local police post or police station, you will have somebody to appeal to who is above the person there. Now, if that one is not cooperating, you have a direct line to the next person in line. If that one will not, then you talk to the ultimate person. Now, until citizens are empowered to be able to gain such access to pass information, a lot of things will not have. It's just like we see in home movie, in some of our home movie, when a crime is happening, police will be distant away, and immediately the crime is, even before they get to the place of the crime, they are blowing siren. Wow, 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 just to ask the criminals to run away before we reach there. So this is the kind of things we say. So we are not actually deliberate in terms of protecting human lives. And I think it starts with us having value for human life, in the sense that every human being created in the image of God, they are supposed to have some measure of natural right in them. And once we have value for humanity, then a lot of other things can take place. Jungle justice is so common here in Nigeria because they feel that if you have somebody who is a criminal and he has more money than you, then chances are that if you present them to the police people, you cannot get justice out of it. So these are some of the issues that are confronting us. And I think really the root issues are the value systems that we really need to re-examine. We need to re-examine our value system as Africa, because most of the people who are talking, they are also valueless. They are also valueless. You are seeing people talking in public spaces. They are valueless. Right. They are stolen from the system. Everything we talk about here, everybody talking about, funding. That's all we hear. If you calculate, for example, the money that has gone into security in the last 10 years, you will see that some even developed countries in the world have not spent that money, and their security is working. Why is our own not working? So, is this issues that we need to deal with, that if they give you money to do something, use it for what you are supposed to use it for. We only see people who leave office and then begin to complain about the system. But why are there, it's wait for your turn.
All right, let's hope that the situation changes for the next 1 year, so that by the time it's 2 years anniversary for President Tinubu, the situation would have improved security-wise. And
yeah, but I think definitely there's a lot of improvement that has happened in the last 1 year, and we must say that, because the data are out there also in public spaces, that the numbers of kidnappings are coming down and all these things. So Rome wasn't built in a day. So we hope by the time the regime is getting to an end, some of all these issues would have been solved. And there's an argument about whether it's state police or local police may not be there anymore.
All right.
If we are crime-free.
We hope for the better. We hope for improvement where work has been done. Thank you so much, Dr. Idahosa Osamhanze, for being with us today on the show. And I need to say that the way you look, please show us the way, so that as soon as we end the program, we can just go with you to the venue.
The party starts here.
I am blessed in the Eiche. Thank you so much for being with us through the week on Early Exchange. It will continue Monday, and that will be the first Monday for the month of June. See how time flies. The year 2024 is coming to a half point, and then we need to do those things that we each have set for ourselves as individuals towards growth and development. We need to get to them if nothing has been done. And as a country, we do hope that the targets that the country has set for itself through the president, we hasten up on them, because time waits for no one. Have yourself a splendid weekend. See you on Monday.
All right, this is where we wrap up the special series for this week. There's this popular saying in the security circle: when you see something, say something. It's our obligation as citizens to ensure that when we see something, let's say it. That's going to be part of our commitment towards making the issue of security better in Nigeria. Just like earlier saying, we get bigger and better, Nigeria will also get bigger and better. Let's be hopeful. Don't forget, our conversation continues on our social media platform, and you can do a catch-up on our YouTube channel, because Early Exchange returns on Monday. I am Femi Ayodele. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.